Darkness swallowed the records room. Every lantern had gone out at once. For a heartbeat. The only sound was Elia's frightened breathing. Then, a warm paw found mine. Orion. I found you. Relief washed through me. How did you? You always leave clues. I blinked. I do. You moved 3 ledges exactly 2 inches out of alignment. That was intentional. I know. Even in complete darkness, I could hear the faint amusement in his voice. A spark flashed. Sable struck flint against steel. One lantern flickered back to life. Then another. Soft golden light revealed the room once more. The iron bars now completely blocked the only exit. Elia looked close to Tiz. We're trapped. No. I walked toward the shelves. We're delayed. The mysterious voice returned. This time. Closer. You continue to surprise me. It echoed through hidden pipes in the walls, making it impossible to determine where the speaker stood. Most investigators panic. You organize. I've always preferred spreadsheets to screaming. A quiet chuckle answered. I can see why Lucian enjoys speaking with you. Interesting. Not works for. Speaking with. Subtle difference. The Duke stepped forward. Show yourself. No. Afraid. No. The voice remained calm. Patient. A pause. I've spent 20 years building this organization. I'm not going to ruin it by becoming emotional. I frowned. 20 years. Long before Orion became Duke. Long before Naira was born. This conspiracy wasn't created overnight. It had become part of the kingdom itself. My eyes wandered across the shelves. Something bothered me. Hundreds of blue ledgers. Everyone perfectly arranged. Except one empty space. Not where I'd removed a book. Another. Higher up. Dust outlined the shape of a missing ledger. Interesting. Very interesting. Someone had taken one recently. I climbed the rolling library ladder. Orion immediately stared at it. You don't have to. I know. I'd rather you didn't fall. I'd rather solve the mystery. You can solve mysteries without falling. I've yet to prove that. Pip sighed from below. They flirt during investigations. Sable quietly replied. They've been doing it all week. We're standing right here, Orion muttered. I know, Pip answered. At the top shelf. I examined the empty space. Fresh dust disturbance. Recent. Very recent. Then I noticed something tucked into the back panel. A tiny folded receipt. Not hidden well. Dropped accidentally. I unfolded it. Only 3 lines. Blue Ledger 001. Transferred. Royal Archives. I froze. Royal Archives. That didn't make sense. If the conspirators wanted to hide evidence, why move their most important ledger to the palace? Unless it wasn't hidden. It was protected. The mysterious voice laughed. You've reached the same conclusion. I looked toward the ceiling. Ledger 1 contains the names. No. The payments. No. The founder. Closer. Silence stretched. Then, it contains the original agreement. My heartbeat quickened. Agreement. Not conspiracy. Agreement. Words mattered. Agreement between whom? The voice became almost gentle. Between the first king and the first merchant guild. Every cat in the room fell silent. Elia whispered. No. She slowly shook her head. That can't be true. It is. The unseen speaker sounded almost proud. The kingdom was bankrupt after the Great Winter. The crown borrowed everything. Food. Steel. Medicine. Ships. The merchants saved the kingdom. Another pause. In return, they received privileges. I quietly finished the sentence. That eventually became corruption. No. They became tradition. Orion's jaw tightened. My ancestors would never have agreed to theft. No. They agreed to survival. The voice echoed softly around the room. Their descendants simply became greedy. I looked down at the copied payment page still tucked inside my sleeve. Lady Maribel's name. The mysterious symbols. Everything suddenly shifted. Maybe not everyone listed there was corrupt. Maybe some were. Paying protection. Not receiving bribes. I raised my voice. Maribel. Silence. What about her? The unseen speaker answered immediately. She's inconvenient. Not guilty. Not innocent. Inconvenient. Interesting. Before I could ask another question, a loud explosion shook the warehouse. The entire building trembled. Dust rained from the ceiling. Pip yelped. What was that? Another explosion. Closer. This time, the iron bars bent slightly. Sable smiled. That's not them. Orion looked upward. No. That's my gods. A third explosion echoed. Wood splintered. Stone cracked. The warehouse wall burst inward in a cloud of dust. Moonlight flooded the records room. Silhouetted against the night stood Captain Sable's elite unit. Crossbows raised. Found you. The mysterious voice sighed. Excellent timing. Then, the speaking tubes fell silent. Whoever had been talking was already gone. The guards quickly secured the room. Elia collapsed into a chair, exhausted. Pip began hugging everyone in sight. I'm so happy nobody died. You hugged me twice, Sable observed. I was extra relieved. While everyone searched the room, I remained standing before the shelves, thinking. Something still didn't fit. The mastermind had us trapped. They could have burned the ledgers, killed us, destroyed everything. Instead, they talked. They explained. They wanted me to learn about the original agreement. Why? Masterminds rarely educated their enemies, unless they wanted those enemies looking in a specific direction. I slowly turned toward Orion. We're chasing the wrong person. He met my gaze immediately. What changed? I held up the transfer receipt. Someone wanted us to believe the answers are in the Royal Archives. You don't agree? No. I smiled faintly. I think Ledger 1 is a distraction. Pip frowned. Then what's important? I looked around the records room one last time. Whoever removed Ledger 1 didn't steal the truth. They stole our attention. Outside, the first rays of dawn began to brighten the harbor. The Royal Audit Commission would arrive at the Eastern Manor by noon. And somewhere in the kingdom, someone had just bought themselves enough time to make their next move. The journey back to the Eastern Manor was silent. Not because there was nothing to discuss. Because there was too much. The blue ledgers. The hidden agreement. The missing Ledger 1. Lucian. The mysterious voice. And now, the Royal Audit Commission. Whoever they truly were, they were already on their way. By late morning, the Eastern Manor gates came into view. Something immediately felt wrong. Too many horses. Too many banners. Too many guards. A line of elegant white carriages stretched from the front gate all the way to the main road. Each carried the royal crest. Silver banners fluttered gently in the breeze. Pip counted under his breath. 1, 2, 3, 6 carriages. Sable frowned. That's excessive. I nodded. They're trying to make an impression. As our carriage rolled through the gates, every servant stood assembled in perfect rows. Even the gardeners. Interesting. Yesterday there had been 6. Today, there were 63. Every single missing gardener had suddenly appeared. I smiled to myself. They are improvising. The Duke looked toward the workers. They found replacements overnight. Exactly. Real gardeners don't all have identical boots. He blinked. What? I pointed subtly. They are soldiers. Every pair of boots matched perfectly. Military issue. Not gardening boots. Pip's jaw slowly dropped. I would have never noticed. They weren't expecting an accountant. A tall white tuxedo cat stepped forward. His fur was immaculate. His posture flawless. He wore deep blue robes embroidered with silver scales. Unlike Lucian, this cat smiled with his eyes. Too much. My Lord Duke. He bowed. My Lady Duchess. I am Chancellor Aldrin, head of the Royal Audit Commission. His voice was calm, refined, practiced. I already disliked him. Orion nodded politely. Welcome. I regret the short notice. The Crown values transparency. I'm certain it does. Aldrin's gaze shifted toward me. And Lady Nyra. I've heard remarkable things. I hope only half of them are true. He chuckled. I suspect the interesting half. There it was. Another player who preferred conversations to threats, which usually meant they were more dangerous. The commission entered the manor. 20 auditors, 12 royal guards, 6 assistants. Enough paperwork to sink a ship. They moved with astonishing efficiency. Almost as though they'd rehearsed this exact inspection. Interesting. Within minutes, every ledger in the library had been stacked neatly on long tables. Every recovered invoice, every payroll book, every shipment record, including the blue ledgers. My ears twitched. No, that wasn't right. I quickly counted. 1, 2, 3, 39. I frowned. There should be 40. Pip quietly looked around. There are only 39. Someone had already removed one. I turned toward Sable. When? She answered immediately. No one entered. Then someone left with it. She frowned. I checked every wagon. I know. The realization hit me. They didn't steal it today. They stole it before we arrived. Across the room, Chancellor Aldrin was already examining the records. His assistants copied notes with incredible speed. He turned one page, then another, never lingering, never studying, just performing. I watched for several minutes. Finally, I walked over, finding what you're looking for. He smiled pleasantly. Oh, I thought you were conducting an audit. I am. No. I gently tapped the open ledger. You're pretending. Silence. Every assistant stopped writing. Aldrin looked genuinely curious. What makes you believe that? I pointed toward the ledger. You've turned 27 pages. Correct. You haven't added a single figure. I have excellent memory. So do I. I smiled. But even geniuses verify totals. His smile became slightly tighter. You've checked no calculations. No supplier histories. No payroll comparisons. You aren't auditing. You're searching. The entire room had become completely silent. Aldrin slowly closed the ledger. You truly are exceptional. I've heard that recently. I imagine you have. He folded his paws neatly. Very well. No more pretending. His assistants quietly stopped writing altogether. Not one objected. Interesting. Very interesting. The Chancellor looked directly at Orion. My lord. The crown requires one document. Only one. The Duke narrowed his eyes. Which document? The original inheritance charter. Silence. Orion frowned. There's no inheritance charter. There is. It has remained sealed for 23 years. I felt a chill run through me. 23 years. The same age as Orion's father's death. The Duke's expression hardened. My father never mentioned such a document. No. Aldrin answered softly. He wasn't permitted to. The room felt suddenly colder. I stepped closer. What is the inheritance charter? Aldrin looked at me. For the first time, there was no smile. It determines who truly owns the Eastern lands. Silence. I slowly looked toward Orion. He looked back at me. Neither of us spoke, because one impossible thought had appeared in both our minds. What if the Duke had never legally owned his own estate? Before anyone could speak again, a servant burst through the library doors. My lord! My lady! He was breathless, terrified. What happened? The hidden warehouse. It's burning. Every cat in the room rushed toward the windows. A thick column of black smoke rose into the pastel sky. The warehouse containing the blue ledgers was engulfed in flames. I didn't watch the fire. Instead, I watched Chancellor Aldrin. For only a fraction of a second, the corners of his mouth lifted. Not enough for anyone else to notice, but enough for me. He wasn't surprised. He'd expected the fire, which meant the warehouse wasn't the target. It was the distraction. I turned sharply toward the library shelves, everyone away from the ledgers. Too late. One shelf was already empty. The last complete blue ledger had vanished. Smoke poured into the afternoon sky. Servants shouted across the courtyard. Buckets of water raced from the well to the burning warehouse. The royal guards joined the effort. The estate had become complete chaos, exactly as someone intended. I didn't move. Not toward the fire. Toward the library. The ledger. Pip followed close behind. You think that's what they're after? I don't think. I know. We burst through the library doors. Books lay scattered across the floor. One shelf stood completely empty. The final blue ledger had disappeared. Captain Sable arrived seconds later. I sealed every entrance. They're still sealed. Nobody left. I nodded. I know. Pip looked confused. Then where did it go? I slowly walked around the room. Nobody stole it. Everyone stayed at me. What? They exchanged it. The Duke entered carrying soot across one sleeve. The warehouse fire is contained. His eyes immediately found the empty shelf. Gone. Not exactly. I approached the audit table. 39 blue ledgers remained stacked neatly in perfect order. Too perfect. I picked up the one on top. Volume 7. Then Volume 8. Then Volume 9. Everything appeared normal. Until Volume 22. I frowned. Interesting. Very interesting. This isn't a ledger. Pip blinked. It has pages. It has blank pages. I opened it completely. Every page looked authentic. Proper ink. Proper handwriting. Proper seals. Until page 38. The writing suddenly changed. Different pressure. Different spacing. Different ink. Someone had replaced the middle of the book. A forgery. Chancellor Aldrin watched quietly from across the room. Remarkable. He didn't sound surprised. You found it. I looked directly at him. You wanted me to. He smiled. Continue. I carefully compared the forged pages with another volume. The margins are slightly wider. The page numbers are hand-cut. The binding thread is newer. I closed the book. This was never the original ledger. No. Aldrin nodded. It wasn't. So. I looked around the room. The real ledger never disappeared. Silence. The assistants exchanged nervous glances. I smiled. It's still here. Pip gasped. What? The thief couldn't remove the book. So they removed. I flipped through another volume. The contents. There it was. Tiny cuts along the stitching. Someone had removed 20 pages. Only 20. Not the entire ledger. Brilliant. Fast. Difficult to notice. The Duke folded his arms. What was on those pages? I don't know. But whoever took them didn't need the book. They needed specific information. Aldrin slowly applauded. 3 soft claps. Nothing more. Lady Naira. I've spent 30 years watching accountants. You're the first who notices paper before numbers. I notice both. I believe you. He walked closer. Calm. Relaxed. Almost friendly. You've earned something. I tilted 1A. What? The truth. The room became completely silent. Even the servants stopped carrying books. Aldrin looked toward Orion. My lord. 23 years ago. Your father discovered the agreement. The Duke's expression hardened. I know. No. You know he died. You don't know why. Nobody moved. Aldrin continued. Your father refused to renew the merchant compact. The crown refused. The guild refused. Someone had to disappear. Pip whispered. They killed him. No. Aldrin answered quietly. They arranged circumstances. The room suddenly felt much colder. I stepped forward. That's a very careful choice of words. It is. So. You aren't admitting murder. I'm admitting politics. I hated that answer. Because it sounded exactly like something a bureaucrat would say. The Duke's voice became dangerously calm. Who gave the order? Aldrin looked directly into his silver eyes. I don't know. Liar. I genuinely don't. I wasn't important enough. Silence. I received instructions. Nothing more. Before anyone could question him further, one of the younger assistants suddenly panicked. My Lord Chancellor. He pointed toward the library window. Outside, the warehouse roof finally collapsed. The entire structure caved inward. Flames roared into the sky. Everyone instinctively turned to watch. Everyone. Except me. Because Aldrin hadn't looked. Not once. His eyes remained fixed on one person. Ilya. Interesting. Very interesting. He wasn't worried about evidence. He was worried about the witness. I quietly stepped between Aldrin and Ilya. His eyes shifted to me. For the first time, his perfect composure cracked. Only slightly. Enough. You've become inconvenient. He said it almost kindly. I've heard that before. I imagine you have. He sighed. I was hoping you'd remain focused on money. I followed the numbers and reached people. Numbers always lead to people. A loud horn echoed across the estate. Once, twice, 3 times. Captain Sable rushed to the window. My lord. What is it? She looked toward the distant road. A royal convoy. Aldrin frowned. Impossible. That single word caught my attention. Impossible. He hadn't expected another royal convoy. Then whose was it? Minutes later, black and gold banners appeared over the hill. Not the silver banners of the Audit Commission. These bore the personal crest of the Queen. The entire courtyard fell silent. Even Aldrin looked genuinely shocked. The lead carriage stopped before the manor. A royal herald stepped down and unfurled a scroll. He spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. By direct order of Her Majesty. All authority exercised by the Royal Audit Commission is hereby suspended. Gasps echoed through the library. The herald continued. Chancellor Aldrin. You are ordered to return to the capital immediately. Aldrin didn't move. He simply stared at the royal seal. Then, for the very first time since arriving, he smiled. Not politely. Not confidently. Sadly. He looked at me, then at Orion, and quietly said, You're too late. Before anyone could react, he reached into his sleeve and threw a small crystal sphere onto the floor. It shattered. A blinding white flash filled the library. When the light faded, Chancellor Aldrin was gone. Only one thing remained where he had stood. A single white chess piece. The Queen. Carved from ivory, and engraved underneath with 4 chilling words. The game has changed. The white chess piece rested in the center of the library. Nobody touched it. Nobody spoke. The carved ivory queen seemed almost to glow against the polished oak floor. Engraved beneath it were 4 simple words. The game has changed. Captain Sable was the first to move. Seal every exit. Her guards scattered immediately. Doors slammed shut. Windows were secured. The estate was locked down within moments. Still, Chancellor Aldrin had vanished. Pip looked around in disbelief. How? There are guards everywhere. There aren't enough, Sable replied. He planned this. I crouched beside the ivory chess piece. It wasn't just beautifully carved. It was warm. Interesting. Very interesting. I carefully turned it over. There, hidden beneath the felt base. A tiny folded strip of paper. Pip blinked. There's another note. Apparently everyone in this kingdom enjoys leaving notes. I unfolded it. Only one sentence. Protect the Queen before sunset. Silence. The Queen. Pip frowned. Our Queen. I assume so. The Duke immediately turned toward Captain Sable. How long would it take to reach the capital? She answered without hesitation. 2 days. I looked back at the note. Then it's impossible. Unless. I slowly stood. No. Everyone looked at me. It isn't talking about Her Majesty. Orion tilted his head. What do you mean? I picked up the ivory chess piece. This message wasn't written by the Queen. It was left by Aldrin. He knew would assume it meant the monarch. I looked around the room. What if the Queen is another person entirely? Pip scratched behind one eye. You mean a code name? Exactly. Sable quietly nodded. Organizations often use titles instead of names. King, Queen, Bishop, Knight. It protects identities. I smiled. Exactly. Elias suddenly gasped. I've heard that before. Every head turned toward her. When? The Founders' Banquet. She closed her eyes, trying to remember. Nobody used real names. They only spoke in chess pieces. The King. The Queen. The Rook. The Knight. My heartbeat quickened. So there really is. She nodded. A Queen. The Duke walked toward the enormous estate map. If Aldrin wanted us to protect someone, why not simply tell us who? Because he couldn't. I answered before anyone else. If someone inside the organization found the note, they'd know exactly who betrayed them. Orion slowly nodded. So we're looking for someone. Without knowing their identity. Unfortunately. Before anyone could speak again, one of Sable's scouts rushed into the library. My lord. My lady. We found a hidden tunnel. Interesting. Very interesting. The tunnel entrance lay beneath the burned warehouse. Collapsed beams had exposed a stone staircase descending into darkness. Fresh footprints covered the ash. Small footprints. Not Aldrin's. Too light. Too narrow. Someone else had escaped through here. Torches were lit. The air grew colder as we descended. The tunnel stretched farther than anyone expected. Stone walls. Arched ceilings. Ancient construction. This wasn't built recently, Orion observed. No. I brushed soot from the carved walls. These stones are centuries old. Half an hour later, the tunnel ended beneath an abandoned chapel. Its stained glass windows had long since shattered. Wildflowers now grew through cracks in the stone floor. Pastel vines wrapped gently around forgotten pillars. Beautiful. Peaceful. Lonely. Almost. Someone was there. A young white long-haired cat knelt before the broken altar. She wore a simple blue traveling cloak. No jewelry. No attendants. No guards. She couldn't have been older than 25. When she heard us, she slowly turned. Her pale blue eyes widened. You found me. Her voice trembled. I hoped it would be you. Captain Sable instinctively stepped forward. Stay where you are. The white cat quietly raised both paws. I don't have any weapons. Who are you? She hesitated, then answered softly. My name is Celeste. The name meant nothing to me. But the Duke suddenly froze. His expression changed completely. Celeste. She looked at him. Recognition flooded her face. Orion. Silence. Pip looked between them. You know each other. Neither answered immediately. Finally, the Duke spoke. My cousin. Every cat in the chapel froze. I blinked. You never mentioned having a cousin. I believed she was dead. Celeste lowered her eyes. So did everyone else. The silence became almost unbearable. Finally, I stepped closer. You're the Queen. Celeste slowly nodded. Not proudly. Sadly. I didn't choose the title. It was given to me. Sable frowned. The organization. Yes. They needed someone who understood both the palace and the merchant families. Pip looked horrified. You're part of them. Tears filled Celeste's eyes. I was. She slowly reached into her cloak. Every guard tensed. Instead of a weapon, she produced a small silver key, unlike any I'd seen before. Its handle was shaped like a chess queen. I've spent 6 years trying to leave. She gently placed the key in my paw. This opens Ledger 1. I stared. Ledger 1 is locked. She nodded. It isn't just a book. It's a vault. A chill ran through me. A vault. Not merely records. Something far more valuable. What does it contain? Celeste looked directly into my emerald eyes. The original agreement. The names of every family involved. Every payment. Every betrayal. And she swallowed. The proof that the current king never signed it. Silence crashed over the chapel. Even the wind outside seemed to stop. The current king? Then who had been authorizing everything? Before anyone could ask another question, An arrow slammed into the chapel wall. Thunk. Then another. Then another. The stained glass windows exploded inward. Masked archers surrounded the chapel from every direction. At their center stood a tall figure dressed entirely in black. Face hidden. Voice calm. You've protected the queen. Congratulations. A slow clap echoed through the ruined chapel. Now. Hand her over. The figure took one step into the light. Pinned to the black cloak was a single silver chess king. For the first time, the mastermind had come in person. The ruined chapel fell silent. Broken stained glass glittered across the stone floor like scattered jewels. Moonlight poured through the shattered windows. The tall figure in black stood perfectly still. A silver chess king gleamed on the cloak. No face, no name, only confidence. No one moved. Even the masked archers waited. The stranger's voice remained calm. I'll ask once. Hand over Lady Celeste. Captain Sable drew both daggers. I don't respond well to ultimatums. I've read your file. The stranger tilted his head. Neither do I. Orion stepped forward. Celeste instinctively moved behind him. You've hidden long enough. The stranger gave a soft chuckle. I've hidden. Because everyone keeps looking for a face. You should have been looking for an idea. I frowned. Interesting. Very interesting. Most criminals defended themselves. This one defended a philosophy. The Duke raised his sword. Remove your mask. No. Afraid. No. The stranger spread both paws. Names create heroes. Masks create movements. Pip whispered beside me. I hate mysterious people. So do accountants. The stranger looked directly at me. Lady Nyra. I've been looking forward to meeting you. I'm less enthusiastic. I know. You've been remarkably inconvenient. I've heard that recently. You'll hear it again. One of the archers shifted position. Barely. Just enough. My eyes followed automatically. Then another. Then another. Interesting. They weren't surrounding us. They were protecting their leader. Not from attack. From escape. A realization struck me. I smiled. You don't trust your own followers. Silence. The stranger didn't answer. I continued. If they truly believed in you, you wouldn't need them watching your back. A few archers exchanged quick glances. Very small. Very brief. Enough. Cracks. The stranger laughed softly. You attack morale. I attack weaknesses. There are many kinds. Suddenly, Celeste stepped forward. Stop. Everyone turned toward her. She looked directly at the masked leader. I'm done running. No. The stranger's voice became noticeably firmer. You belong with us. I never did. You were chosen. I was manipulated. The stranger sighed. That's unfortunate. He slowly raised one paw. The archers lifted their bows. At that exact moment. No. The single word came from Orion. Quiet. Controlled. Terrifying. He stepped in front of Celeste. If anyone leaves here tonight, it won't be her. The stranger laughed again. I've heard stories about you. I don't care. I know. That's why you're dangerous. Then, the stranger reached into the cloak. Every guard tensed. Every bowstring tightened. Instead of drawing a weapon, the stranger removed a folded document. He tossed it toward me. It landed at my feet. I carefully unfolded it. My breath caught. The inheritance charter. The very document Chancellor Aldrin had been searching for. Orion stepped beside me. Is it genuine? I examined the paper. The ink. The wax. The fibers. Then, I frowned. No. Everyone looked at me. It's beautiful. It's convincing. It's fake. The masked stranger tilted the head slightly. So certain. I held up the parchment. The royal seal is correct. The signatures are correct. The paper is the correct age. But I pointed toward the bottom corner. The page numbers aren't. Silence. The kingdom switched to Arabic numerals 16 years after this document was supposedly written. I smiled. This page uses both numbering systems. Someone forged it using modern references. Captain Sable blinked. You noticed that? I notice everything. For the first time, the masked leader didn't answer immediately. Interesting. Very interesting. I had surprised them. Then, a slow clap echoed through the chapel. Magnificent. You truly deserve your reputation. The stranger looked almost pleased. I wanted to know whether you were actually that observant. So this, I held up the fake charter, was a test. Yes. You passed. Pip stayed in disbelief. He risked all of this. For a test. No. I answered quietly. He wanted to measure us. I looked directly at the masked figure. And we just measured you. The stranger tilted the head. Oh. You expected us to chase the fake charter. We didn't. You expected panic. We stayed organized. You expected emotion. We followed evidence. I folded the forged document. You've now learned exactly how I think. A pause. So have I. The masked leader stood silently for several seconds. Then, something unexpected happened. A genuine laugh. Not mocking. Not cruel. Appreciative. This has become interesting. Without warning, one of the archers suddenly fired. Not at us. At the masked leader. Thwip! The arrow flew straight toward the black cloak. Time seemed to slow. The stranger twisted sideways. The arrow sliced through the edge of the cloak, instead of striking the chest. Chaos erupted. What are you doing? He betrayed us. No. He betrayed us first. Half the archers turned their bows toward the attacker. The other half hesitated. The organization had fractured. The masked leader calmly removed the torn cloak. Everyone froze. Not because they recognized the face. Because there wasn't one. Beneath the cloak, the stranger wore another mask. Plain white. Expressionless. Featureless. A second disguise. Pip blinked. He's wearing a mask under a mask. The stranger shrugged. I've always appreciated redundancy. Using the confusion, the masked figure stepped backward toward the shadows. No. Captain Sable lunged. Too late. A smoke bomb shattered against the stone floor. Grey mist flooded the chapel. By the time it cleared, the stranger was gone. Only the white mask remained, lying in the center of the floor. I picked it up carefully. It felt unusually heavy. There was something inside. I turned it over. A hidden compartment clicked open. Inside, a tiny silver coin. One side bore the familiar chess king. The other, a simple engraving. Tomorrow. Sunset. Royal Archives. I looked up at Orion. He already understood. Ledger 1. The vault. The original agreement. Everything was leading to one place. The Royal Archives. And if the mastermind wanted us there, one of two things was about to happen. Either we would finally uncover the truth, or we would walk into the deadliest trap yet. The journey to the capital began before sunrise. No royal escort. No banners. No fanfare. Just one modest carriage rolling quietly through mist-covered roads. If the mastermind expected us at the Royal Archives, we intended to arrive before anyone else. Inside the carriage, no one slept. Pip stared nervously out the window. Sable sharpened one of her daggers. Celeste gently turned the silver key over in her paws again and again. Orion sat opposite me. His gaze remained fixed on the countryside. But I could tell. He wasn't seeing the trees. He was thinking about his father. After several hours, the capital appeared. Pastel-colored rooftops climbed gentle hills surrounding the magnificent royal palace. Flower gardens stretched between elegant stone buildings. Crystal fountains sparkled beneath the morning sun. Artists painted along the streets. Musicians filled the air with soft melodies. It was breathtaking. Yet beneath its beauty, secrets had flourished for decades. The Royal Archives stood apart from the palace itself, an enormous circular building crowned by a sapphire blue dome. Its white marble walls were covered with carved histories of the kingdom. Kings, queens, treaties, harvests, victories. Every generation had left its mark here. I smiled quietly. A building that protects information. It feels familiar. Pip sighed. Only you would say that. Royal archivists welcomed us politely. Their cream-colored robes bore tiny embroidered books instead of noble crests. One elderly tortoiseshell cat stepped forward. My Lord Duke. My Lady Duchess. We were informed of your arrival. Interesting. By whom? The archivist hesitated. Her Majesty. Orion exchanged a quick glance with me. So the Queen really was helping us. At least, we hoped she was. The archivist led us deep beneath the archives. Past towering shelves. Ancient scrolls. Dust-covered maps. Books older than the kingdom itself. Finally, we reached a massive steel door. No decorations. No royal crest. Only a tiny engraving. A chess queen. Celeste quietly stepped forward. This is it. She inserted the silver key. Click. Nothing happened. She frowned. It should open. I knelt beside the lock. Interesting. Very interesting. This isn't the original mechanism. What? Someone changed it. I examined the tiny scratches surrounding the keyhole. The lock was replaced recently. Within weeks. Orion frowned. Can you open it? I think so. Instead of forcing the key, I removed it. Everyone looked confused. You aren't using it. No. The key isn't meant to unlock the vault. It identifies who should open it. Pip blinked. I don't understand. I smiled. It's asking the wrong question. I pressed my paw gently against the steel door. Tiny engraved symbols surrounded the keyhole. Books, scales, crowns. Then, one tiny symbol nearly hidden beneath centuries of polish. A feather. Justice. Not authority. Justice. I inserted the key upside down. Turned it halfway. Then stopped. A second hidden slot quietly slid open. Interesting. Very interesting. Inside the second slot, there was room for only one thing. A fingerprint. Or rather, a paw print. Celeste looked surprised. I never knew. You weren't supposed to. She gently placed her paw into the hidden recess. Nothing. I looked at Orion. You try. He did. Nothing. Pip shrugged. I can try. Nothing. Everyone slowly turned toward me. Why are you looking at me? Sable answered simply. Because every strange lock we've encountered has somehow made sense to you. Fair enough. I placed my paw into the hidden recess. Click. Everyone froze. The enormous steel door slowly began to move. Pip's mouth fell open. How? I don't know. But deep inside, I wasn't entirely sure that was true. Whoever designed this vault expected someone who thought differently. Someone who solved systems. not simply inherited titles. The vault opened. Cold air drifted outward. Hundreds of shelves filled the chamber. Each held sealed cases containing the kingdom's most important documents. Directly in the center, upon a simple stone pedestal, rested one blue leather ledger. No jewels, no guards, no elaborate display. Just ledger 1. I approached slowly. No traps, no wires, no hidden mechanisms. Interesting. Almost too easy. I carefully opened the cover. The first page contained only a single sentence. Truth belongs to whoever finishes reading. I frowned. Odd. Very odd. Turning the page, we finally saw it. The original agreement. Signed over 70 years ago. The crown had indeed borrowed enormous sums from the merchant guild. In return, the guild received temporary authority over trade taxes. Temporary, not permanent. Yet, every renewal after that looked different. Small changes, tiny amendments, almost invisible. Each generation had surrendered a little more authority, until eventually, the guild controlled almost everything. Not through war, through paperwork. Pip stayed in disbelief. The kingdom wasn't conquered. No, I whispered. It was negotiated. Then, a folded letter slipped from the final page, addressed simply, to whoever finally opens this ledger. I unfolded it carefully. The handwriting was old, elegant, steady. It read, if you are reading this, then our family has failed. The compact was never meant to survive beyond one generation. Destroy this agreement. Build something honest in its place. Do not seek revenge. Seek balance. Otherwise, history will simply choose new conspirators. Silence filled the vault. Orion slowly lowered the letter. My father. I nodded. He was trying to do exactly this. Before anyone could speak again, a slow clap echoed through the chamber. 1, 2, 3. We turned. Standing calmly in the vault entrance, without a mask, without a disguise, was Guildmaster Lucian. He wasn't alone. Behind him stood nearly 30 armed guards. Lucian smiled sadly. I hoped you would read the last page. He looked at the letter in Orion's paw. Now you understand. I stepped protectively in front of the ledger. You've been protecting it. Yes. For years. Yes. You aren't trying to hide the truth. No. His amber eyes lowered. I'm trying to stop the wrong cats from using it. The room fell silent. Everything we thought we knew shifted once again. If Lucian wasn't protecting corruption, then who was? And why had so many cats died to keep the secret buried? The Royal Archives vault fell into complete silence. 30 armed guards stood behind Lucian. Not one raised a weapon. Not one took another step. Lucian himself remained at the entrance. Almost, as though crossing the threshold would violate some invisible rule. Interesting. Very interesting. I looked carefully at the guards. Their swords remained sheathed. Crossbows pointed toward the floor. No attack formation. No killing intent. I looked back at Lucian. You didn't come here to fight. He smiled faintly. I was hoping you'd notice. Orion didn't lower his sword. Then explain. Lucian slowly removed his gloves. I will. But first. He looked toward the ledger. Close the book. I frowned. Why? Because every minute it remains open. More cats become targets. Something about his voice had changed. Gone was the polished guildmaster. Gone was the calculating merchant. He sounded tired. Very tired. I gently closed ledger 1. The heavy leather cover settled with a quiet thud. Lucian released a breath I hadn't realized he'd been holding. Thank you. Captain Sable stepped between us. I don't trust you. I wouldn't. Lucian nodded. I've spent years making certain no one did. Pip folded his arms. You've tried to capture us. Yes. You threatened Elia. Yes. You lied. Frequently. So why should we listen now? Lucian met Pip's eyes. Because I was never protecting myself. The room became still. Lucian slowly walked forward. Only 3 steps. No farther. I am the latest guardian. I blinked. Guardian. The position is older than the Merchant Guild. Older than the current royal family. It has one purpose. He looked toward the ledger. Ensure that no single faction ever controls that book. Celeste lowered her head. I suspected. Lucian smiled sadly. You were always clever. Orion frowned. If that's true, why create an organization? I didn't. Lucian answered quietly. I inherited one. He began pacing slowly. My predecessor believed the crown couldn't be trusted. The crown believed the guild couldn't be trusted. The guild believed the nobles couldn't be trusted. He looked around the vault. So everyone built secret organizations. Each one spying on the others. Each one convinced they alone protected the kingdom. I quietly finished his thought. And eventually, nobody remembered why. Lucian looked directly at me. Exactly. The words hung in the air. 70 years. Of lies. Secrets. Counter-secrets. Entire generations believing they were heroes, while becoming villains to everyone else. Orion slowly lowered his sword. Then who ordered my father's death? Lucian's expression darkened. I didn't. I know. I tried to stop it. Silence. Who? Lucien closed his eyes. The only person who believes the compact should continue forever. The king. No. The queen. No. He slowly shook his head. The chancellor. No. I stepped forward. The chess king. Lucien nodded once. Yes. Pip frowned. But we've met the chess king. Lucien's eyes became unexpectedly gentle. No. You met whoever happened to be wearing the mask. The realization hit me like cold water. Masks. Titles. Positions. Not people. The chess king wasn't one individual. It was an office. Passed from one cat to another. Lucien continued. Whenever one king falls, another inherits the mask. No election. No ceremony. Only secrecy. So the real mastermind, I whispered, could already be someone else. Yes. Every clue suddenly rearranged itself inside my mind. The changing handwriting. The different strategies. The contradictions. They weren't mistakes. Different leaders. Different personalities. Using the same title. Then something else occurred to me. I looked at Lucien. You are the last guardian. He frowned slightly. No. I smiled. There are two. Silence. Everyone looked at me. I walked slowly around the vault, thinking aloud. If the guardian's purpose is balance, one guardian would eventually become corrupt. So, someone created a second guardian. Hidden. Unknown. Watching the feist. Insurance. Lucien stayed at me for several seconds. Then, he laughed. A genuine laugh. You really do notice everything. He slowly bowed. Lower than he ever had before. I've spent 12 years searching for the second guardian. You found them. I just did. He looked directly at me. Lady Naira. The room froze. Pip actually pointed at himself first. Huh. Lucien nodded. The vault opened. The lock accepted you. The final letter revealed itself. It wasn't blood. It wasn't rank. It wasn't chance. He smiled. The archives weren't searching for a family. They were searching for a mind. I stood speechless. No. I've never even been here before. You didn't need to. Lucien gestured toward the shelves. The second guardian was never hereditary. It was chosen. Whenever someone appeared who valued truth above power. Orion looked at me, not with surprise, with understanding. He smiled softly. I should have realized. Before I could answer, the vault door slammed shut. Boom. Every guard spun around. Heavy steel locks engaged automatically. 1, 2, 3. Then, a familiar voice echoed through the chamber. Calm, confident, almost amused, touching. The smile disappeared from Lucien's face. No. The voice continued. You finally gathered everyone together. How considerate. Hidden panels slid open high in the walls. Crossbows emerged. Dozens of them. Already loaded. Already aimed. Not at us. At Ledger 1. I frowned. Interesting. Why the ledger? Then I understood. If they couldn't control the truth, they would erase it. Lucien looked toward me. For the first time since we'd met, his composure completely vanished. Naira. His voice was urgent. Don't save us. He pointed toward the ledger. Save the book. The hidden mechanisms clicked. Every crossbow fired at once. The hidden crossbows fired. Hundreds of bolts screamed through the air. Every instinct told me to run. Instead, I ran toward Ledger 1. Naira. Orion's voice echoed through the vault. I heard him. I ignored him. Not because I didn't care. Because Lucien had been right. The ledger mattered more than any one of us. If the truth died here, the conspiracy would simply begin again. Time seemed to slow. The stone pedestal stood only a few steps away. The first bolt struck the marble floor. Crack. Stone shattered. Another volley tore through the shelves behind me. Ancient scrolls burst into clouds of parchment. Captain Sable threw herself in front of Elia. Pip dragged Celeste behind a stone pillar. Lucien shouted orders to his guards. Protect the archives. Not protect me. Not attack them. Protect the archives. Interesting. He had been telling the truth all along. I reached the pedestal. Instead of grabbing the ledger, I grabbed the pedestal itself. Everyone stared. Pip blinked. What is she doing? I smiled. Accounting. The pedestal wasn't decorative. It was part of the security system. The weight mattered. If I removed the book, more traps might activate. So instead, I searched underneath. There. A bronze release lever. I pulled it. Click. The pedestal rotated 90 degrees. The ledger disappeared beneath the stone floor. A heavy steel plate slid into place above it. The remaining bolts slammed harmlessly into solid metal. The book was safe. Silence. The final crossbow clicked empty. No more bolts. Only drifting dust. Lucien looked at me in disbelief. You figured out the safeguard. It was designed to protect the ledger, not display it. He slowly laughed. I spent 12 years looking for that lever. You were looking at the book. I looked at the furniture. Then, a slow clap echoed through the vault. Not Lucian. Not Orion. The mysterious voice. You continue to exceed expectations. The stone wall opposite us began to move. Ancient gears groaned. A hidden doorway slowly opened. From the darkness emerged a grey long-haired cat. Older, perhaps 60, elegant without being extravagant. Simple charcoal robes. No jewelry. No armor. No weapon. Only one silver chess king pinned to the collar. No mask. Everyone stood frozen. The cat smiled gently. So, the second guardian. The eyes settled on me. I've waited a very long time to meet you. Lucian bowed his head. Not in fear. In disappointment. I hoped you'd never come here. The older cat sighed. You always were sentimental. Orion stepped forward. So, you're the chess king. The grey cat chuckled. For today. Interesting. Again. A title. Not a name. My name is Cassian. The older cat folded his paws behind his back. I inherited this office 31 years ago. He looked almost grandfatherly. Kind. Patient. Which somehow made him even more dangerous. Cassian looked around the damaged vault. So much destruction. So much effort. All because nobody understands one simple truth. I folded my arms. And what truth is that? He smiled warmly. Cats. Pip blinked. Cats. Cats are predictable. Cassian nodded. They fear uncertainty. They crave stability. They'll surrender freedom if someone promises order. I shook my head. So you created corruption? No. I created continuity. You stole. I prevented collapse. You manipulated governments. I prevented civil wars. You murdered witnesses. His smile disappeared. I removed variables. The room became silent. Finally, the real philosophy. Not greed. Control. Cassian looked toward Orion. Your father would have destroyed everything. He would have exposed the compact. He would have trusted ordinary citizens. He sighed. Such optimism. Orion's voice was ice. My father believed the kingdom deserved honesty. He believed honesty without preparation creates chaos. Cassian answered calmly. He was wrong. I stepped forward. No. You were. He looked at me curiously. Oh. You assume only two choices exist. Control. Or collapse. I smiled faintly. That's what every failed accountant believes before bankruptcy. Cassian raised an eyebrow. Explain. You've spent decades hiding the truth. Because you feared what would happen. Yet every lie required another. Every secret created another conspiracy. You didn't prevent instability. You delayed it. I gestured toward the damaged vault. And now, the debt has finally come due. For the first time, Cassian didn't answer immediately. Interesting. Very interesting. He hadn't expected an argument. He'd expected anger. Lucian quietly stepped beside me. She's right. Cassian looked almost saddened. You too. I've watched good cats die. Lucian answered softly. I've watched honest families destroyed. The compact no longer protects the kingdom. It protects itself. One by one, Cassian's own guards began lowering their weapons. The oldest among them spoke first. Is that true? Another looked toward Lucian. We've been protecting this. A third slowly removed the silver chess king from the uniform. It landed on the stone floor with a soft clink. Then another. Then another. Within moments, more than half of Cassian's followers had laid down their insignia. Not because they had been defeated. Because they had finally understood. Cassian looked around the vault. No anger. Only quiet disappointment. So, it ends like this. I nodded. It doesn't have to. He looked at me. What would you do? I glanced toward Ledger 1. Then toward Orion. Then Celeste. Then Lucian. Finally, I answered. We don't burn the truth. We publish it. We dissolve the compact. We create transparent trade laws. We establish independent audits. We separate the crown from the guild. And every agreement, I smiled, expires unless renewed publicly. Pip whispered. That actually sounds like something she'd write. Cassian closed his eyes. For a long moment, no one spoke. Finally, he removed the silver chess king from his robe. He looked at it, turned it over once, then placed it gently on the stone floor. I inherited this office believing secrecy was mercy. He looked at me. Perhaps. It's time the kingdom tried honesty. He stepped away from the insignia. Captain Sable calmly walked forward and took custody of him. There was no struggle. No final battle. No dramatic last strike. Only an old cat accepting that his time had passed. Several weeks later, the contents of Ledger 1 were presented before the Crown, the Merchant Guild, the noble houses, and representatives from towns across the kingdom. The compact was formally dissolved. Every hidden agreement became public record. Lucian accepted the role of temporary trade commissioner, not as a secret guardian, but as a public servant subject to oversight. Celeste chose to rebuild the royal archives, ensuring that history would be preserved without hidden vaults or secret titles. Captain Sable established the kingdom's first independent investigative office. Elia became its chief financial auditor. Pip proudly accepted the title of assistant records coordinator. He insisted it sounded much more impressive than filing clerk. No one corrected him. One quiet evening, Orion and I stood beneath the blooming moonflowers in the manor gardens. The kingdom was peaceful. Not perfect, but honest enough to begin healing. He looked at me. When we first met, I thought you were going to reorganize my ledgers. I laughed. I did. I thought that would be the biggest change. It wasn't. He smiled. No. He gently took my paw. You reorganized my life. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The breeze carried the scent of lavender through the gardens. Fireflies drifted between the flowers. Pastel lanterns glowed softly beneath the evening sky. I never thanked you, he said quietly. For what? For choosing truth. Even when it would have been easier to choose victory. I smiled. Truth lasts longer. He nodded. I've learned that. Together, we watched the stars appear above the kingdom they had helped rebuild. Not through force, not through secrets, but through courage, trust, and the simple belief that even the oldest lies can be overcome when someone is willing to follow the numbers all the way to the truth.